Your genes set the stage, but your choices direct the play. What kind of story are you writing? This video, we are going to dive into a fascinating topic and a concept that you may not have heard before, but you're going to love understanding and really grasping how we can have such a massive influence on our health. The traditional medical system, that conventional pediatrician and healthcare providers, they want us to believe that our health is entirely dictated by your genes, right? You're just left up to that predetermined choice. You either got lucky or you didn't. That is not the whole story. You're not just hardwired for one path. We're able to have a massive influence on our health and on your kids' health through the lifestyle choices that we make every single day. And this includes the foods we eat, the products that you use to clean your house or to wash your clothes, even things like your thoughts, your emotional life, your sleep schedule, your ability to adapt to stress, all has a huge influence on your health. We are talking about this field that is known as epigenetics. Genetics, you've heard of. Epigenetics means above. It means what is influencing, what is controlling our genes. Yes, your genes matter and they have a say in your health outcomes, and at the very least, your eye color, your height, your things like that. But the much bigger factor is this world of epigenetics, and that is what controls, what turns genes on, turns genes off, what activates them. You know, we thought back in the 50s when the DNA structure was first discovered that they thought within a few decades we would have eradicated disease, that we'd all be crushing it. We are well over a few decades past the 50s, and I don't think we've come close to eradicating disease. I think if you look around, you probably see more sickness and more disease than even back then. So that wasn't the whole story, because we're not just our genetics. You're not just a victim of what hand of cards you got dealt. So let's talk about it. What is epigenetics? For epigenetics, you can think of it like a hand of cards, right? Think of your DNA, that's the deck of cards. That is the possible things that you can do. But the ones that you're choosing to play, the ones that you're activating, that is the stuff that is in your control. That is the stuff that is triggered or turned on by your environment. And like I said, there's a wide range of what that means. Your sleep, your stress adaptability, your nutrition, your physical movement, all of those things can have massive epigenetic factors and either positively or negatively influence the actual function of your genes. And this is a concept that you do understand if you stop and think about it, because you've probably heard that identical twins, even though they have the exact same genes, can have radically different health outcomes. And there's all sorts of cool one-off stories within psychology and science of identical twins separated at birth, live very different lives. And while there is some unique and kind of humorous similarities there can be massively different health outcomes depending on the choices in the environmental cues that they're making. So unfortunately, in our everyday life, there is a perfect storm of negative environmental cues affecting our kids, especially early on in life. Pregnancy is more stressful than it should be. We're not supporting moms in that process like we should. Fertility challenges are way, way more common, which adds to that stress in pregnancy. And then more often than not leads to some sort of birth trauma, forceps, C-section, vacuum extraction, let alone just hands-on pulling, turning, twisting at that incredibly sensitive, incredibly important head and neck region for a kid. All of that has massive impact in a negative way affecting that start to life. And then kids are exposed to antibiotics, toxic things in their environment way earlier than they should. Nutrition maybe isn't perfect for the kid. There are so many things that can negatively affect a kid's start to life. And now what we find is they're behind the eight ball from day one. What all those different factors do is they create this neurological stress or this neurological storm on the inside, and it puts that kid's nervous system into more of a state of fight or flight. They're in survival mode, they're in stress, they're in this go, 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 I'm running from a bear in the woods sort of state, even if they're just laying in their crib, even if they're just in your arms. What we need to do is change that internal neurology so that the external behaviors and the choices and the functions that come downstream of that can change as well. But you've got to start with the inside, right? If you don't change that internal epigenetic control, the genes are going to go down the path that you don't want them to. So there's so many conditions that are linked to this. You can talk about obesity and metabolic disorder. It's not just you have a gene or you don't have a gene for it. The early life experiences you have as a kid, if you had a high fat, if you had a high sugar diet, your genetics get skewed to make it harder to have metabolic health and to not and to lose weight more easily. You can think about asthma or allergies, different immune regulation challenges, same thing is true. Early exposures, especially if you talk about heavy hitters like different toxic chemicals like tobacco smoke, environmental pollutants. If a kid is exposed to those early on in life, that is more likely to trigger those genetic influences that will turn on the allergies and make them more sensitive to those things. And then the big one that we talk about and that we work a ton with here at Thrive different behavioral disorders, different neurodevelopmental challenges, or mood regulation issues. Autism, ADHD, anxiety, we see massive epigenetic factors with that from what we do in everyday life as a parent. And so that's where the takeaway here, and what I want you to be getting out of this, is twofold. One is you have way more say in your kid's life than you think, right? You have way more say in your own health. Your own choices have a massive impact. But if you feel like you're checking that box, if you feel like you're doing a lot of those things already, maybe you just need to calm that internal stress down, right? We want to do two things. We want to minimize the negative stress that our kids are under, and then we want to maximize their ability to adapt to it, their ability to handle those factors. Because regardless of how good you do at minimizing them, until you're moved away on your own private island and growing your own food and living in your own little bubble, there's going to be stressors. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be negative things that are affecting our kids. What we need to do is prepare to handle them better, prepare to adapt to them. And that's where neurologically focused care has a world of an impact. We get to measure that stress response with our scans, and then we get to affect it in a positive way. We get to improve their adaptability through care plans and through the right care protocols and the right adjustment protocols. So that's your takeaway, parents. Take this as an empowering message. You're not just a victim to genes. You can do massive good by improving those epigenetic factors and increasing your kids' ability to adapt to them and handle them better through neurologically focused chiropractic care. Let us know if you got any questions and thoughts. Thank you so much for listening. Please share this with a friend, with a mom friend that needs to hear that message too, that they're frustrated, they're struggling, they don't know where else to turn. Pass this on. Maybe they need that dose of hope that is just reminding them that they can make a difference. They can influence their kids' outcomes. Appreciate you guys.